Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Professor Samia Ursani, Associate Professor in Zoology from Government Nazareth Girls College, Hyderabad. I'm here with you to explain lymphatic system from chapter number 14, the transport, first year Zoology. First, let me tell you what you should know by the end of lecture. That is, how will you define lymphatic system? Why do we need lymphatic system? What does lymphatic system consist of? What is lymph? How do lymph vessels work? What are lymph nodes? Where are lymphoid organs? Functions of lymphatic system and edema and its causes. How will you define lymphatic system? You can define lymphatic system as a system of blind vessels, which are called lymphatics, that drain fluid called lymph from all over the body back into the bloodstream is called lymphatic system. Lymphatic system appears in the form of widely spread network of vessels which are spread throughout the body, and it's very thin vessels. They are found to be deeply infused into the body, and the system works in association with the circulatory system. Therefore, it can be considered as subcirculatory system, as it helps the blood in returning its leftover fluid into the tissues back. In this segment, you are going to understand why do we need lymphatic system. As you studied earlier in this chapter, all vertebrates, they have closed circulatory system in which circulatory fluid called blood flows in closed vessels in order to transport very essential nutrients, essential materials to all tissues of the body, and it just collect waste from the cells, from the cells, and take them to the site of elimination. So the blood circulate in closed vessels. So the blood is responsible to transport essential nutrients to all the tissues. So dissolved substances are exchanged between the dissolved substances present in the blood are exchanged between the capillaries and body cells by means of interstitial fluid that surrounds the cells of the body. The interstitial fluid is a fluid that is actually derived from the blood when the blood flows through the capillary network. As you know that capillaries in their structures, they are very, very fine and having very fine walls, very thin walls, and due to the very narrow diameter within the capillaries, the hydrostatic pressure of the blood increases when the blood flows through the capillaries at the tissue level. So due to the high hydrostatic pressure within the capillaries, the amount of, or you may say the portion of the fluid from the blood, it passes into the intercellular spaces of the cells that fluid surrounds the cells as an interstitial fluid, nourishes the cell, and returns to the a larger percentage, that is about 85% of that fluid that has passed from the capillary walls, it returns into the venous blood at the venous end of the capillaries, whereas 15% of the blood is left in the tissues. It couldn't. It is not. You may say it gets failed to be reabsorbed by the circulatory system. So that 15% of the fluid that is left to be reabsorbed by the circulatory system, it is needed to be drained back into the blood circulatory system. So here the lymphatic system works to remove this leftover fluid over here back into the circulatory system. So this is why we need lymphatic system, that so that the interstitial fluid that is left in the intercellular spaces could be drained into the blood circulatory system, so that to provide space for the upcoming fluid into the intercellular spaces during the course of the blood flow. So in this diagram you may see that in the association of the capillaries, and here these are the lymphatic vessels. So you can understand that the blood flows through, when the blood flows through the capillary wall of capillaries, the portion of the blood plasma, a portion of a plasma from blood passes into the intercellular spaces, and it behaves like interstitial fluid, surrounds the cells, nourishes the cells, and immediately carried away by the circulatory system, but the leftover portion of the fluid is carried by these lymph vessels that are also deeply infused into the tissues. Here in this diagram you can see the association of the lymphatic system and the blood circulatory system. Now in this segment you are going to know what does lymphatic system consist of. So simply you can say that the lymphatic system consists of lymph, the lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, lymphoid organs, and in the structure it appears like this, very thin network of vessels. Now you can understand from this segment what is lymph. Lymph can be defined as a colorless body fluid that is derived from the plasma of the blood, as I told you, and it contains the lymphocytes, small protein, fats, cellular debris. You may say it could be the waste from the cells, and possible presence of an microorganism in this fluid. So once the fluid of leftover plasma, or you may say when the leftover interstitial fluid is carried by the lymphatic vessels, so then it is known as lymph. In this segment, you will learn how do lymph vessels work. The lymph vessels are the tubes, or you may say they are the channels through which the lymph flows. These lymph vessels can be of three types: lymph capillaries, lymph vessels, or lymphatic duct. The lymph capillaries, they are finest of all the vessels, and they appear in the form of a bed that is deeply infused into the tissues. So lymphatic system is thought to start with the capillary bed of the lymphatic capillaries, or you may say lymph capillaries. So these capillaries, their walls are very, very thin. They are microscopic vessels. They are found to be deeply infused into all tissues except nervous system, and they are blind, and they are blind. They have blind ends. These lymphatic capillaries, they have blind ends, means their ends are quite closed, but their walls are so thin that their walls allow the fluid from the intercellular spaces more radially into the lymphatic capillaries. Lymphatic capillaries, here you can see they when they converge, when they get united with one another, they form lymph vessel. So lymph vessels comparatively larger and having a larger diameter also, resembles the vein, and they have the valves that prevent the backflow of the blood. So the blood lymph flows through these lymph vessels throughout the body through these vessels, and finally when the vessels from number of tissues they unite together, they form lymph duct. That lymph duct finally drain the lymph into the larger veins near the neck. So this was all about 3 types of lymph vessels. Here we are going to explain what are lymph nodes. This is the second important part of the lymphatic lymph nodes. They are the second important part of the lymphatic system. They appear in the form of small ovoid bodies, or they can be rounded also, and they appear in thousands of numbers. They can be found in clusters, or they may appear in singly, and they are found to be punctuated along the lymphatic vessels throughout the whole framework of lymphatic system. So the lymph node is said to be a capsulated body that's surrounded by the fibrous capsule, having inner mass of cells that are lymphoid tissues. They contain the 2 types of cells which are of more important. These cells are lymphocytes and macrophages, and so as these lymphocytes are the types of white blood cells. So you are most familiar of white blood cells as in respect of their function. So here the lymph, when the lymph passes through these lymph nodes, the lymph is filtered, and you may say the foreign particle present in the lymphs, they are neutralized by the lymphocytes. They are trapped by the lymph nodes. So in this concern, it is of great importance that these lymph nodes, they are concerned with the immunity. Here I am going to tell you about some lymphatic organs. Spleen is the largest lymphoid organs, and it is found at the left upper portion of the abdomen, and its function is to break up the worn out RBCs, or you may say it destroy the RBCs which are of no use, and it is responsible. This spleen is also responsible to produce active immunity in the body. The next important organ of this concern is thymus. thymus is found at the upper front part of the chest between the lungs and is considered as the primary lymphoid organ as it is most active in childhood. As the child gets older and it reaches the age of adulthood, the thymus descends its function, and it's mainly concerned with the maturation of T cell in the childhood. Tonsils they appear in the form of a pair of lymph nodes at the back of the throat, and their function is to provide mouth health or oral hygiene is concerned. The lymphoid organs, they may appear in the form of patches of the lymphoid tissues in the appendix and in the small intestine, and they are also concerned with the trapping of the microorganism, more possibly present in the food in the intestine. In this segment, you are going to see the position of the lymphoid organs in the body, as I told you in the last slide. In this segments, you are going to learn about functions of lymphatic system. So by all the explanation, you can understand that the very primary function of the lymphatic system is as it works as a drainage system. It acts as a drainage channel for water and plasma protein that have leaked away from blood and deliver them back to the blood circulation. Thus, by doing so, it maintains balance of fluid between the blood and tissue. So therefore, it is by removing the excessive or leftover fluid from the tissues, it maintains the condition of equilibrium between the interstitial fluid and the blood. The second important function you might have observed from my explanation, that the defense as it involved in removal of microorganisms, cellular debris in lymph, present in lymph by the macrophages residing in the lymph node. As I told you, throughout the course, the lymph, it passes through the lymph nodes, and when it passes through the lymph nodes, whatever the microorganism, foreign particles are present in the lymph are captured by the lymph nodes due to the presence of lymphocytes and macrophages over there. So thus it forms body's immune system. Third, another important function of the lymphatic system is that it is involved in the absorption of the fats and fat soluble nutrients in small intestine. When you studied the nutrition, chapter nutrition, and you studied the digestion, so you have learned that the fatty acids, they are not carried away by the blood circulatory system. Instead, they are carried away by the tiny, or you may say the very thin vessels called lacteals that are the part of the lymphatic system, and these lacteals are present in the villi, and whatever the fat soluble substances or fatty acids are absorbed by the lacteals, and they are carried to the adipose tissues for the storage. Now I'm going to explain you when lymphatic system is disturbed. So Edema is a condition. It occurs when excessive tissue fluid is accumulated in body tissues rather than being drained by the lymphatic system. So edema is a condition that appears due to the accumulation, or you may say retention of fluid within the tissues. This edema appears as a swelling in different body parts, or so these swellings, they could be localized or they may be generalized. So localized means when these swellings appear in some specific parts, like the ankle, like feet, or like hands. So it can be referred as localized swelling. When the edema appears in the whole body, it affects the whole body, then this is referred as generalized swelling. This edema can be caused by any factor that may affect the normal tissue fluid pressure, and it can be observed in these illustrations that how the edema is formed. So edema is sort of inflammation, you may say, that when the too much of the fluid leaks out of the blood capillaries due to the changes in the osmotic pressure in the blood, or maybe the changes in the tissue fluid pressure. So these are the pictures that could be that can make you understand that the edema is a localized edema, and it can be examined by putting pressure on the affected area, and if the pit appears, it shows this this place is going to have edema. In this segments, you are going to learn the causes of the edema. The causes of the generalized edema could be heart failure, kidney failure, liver failure, dietary protein deficiency. So malnutrition is one of the reason of dietary protein deficiency, when we are not taking the normal proteins in our diet, which are needed to acquire important amino acids for our body to build up our own proteins. So in such case, our body start to consume our own body protein. So the condition is leading to the edema, liver failure, kidney failure. You also know that these two organs, they are also concerned to remove excretory products, excess water from the body if they are not working well. So the osmotic pressure increased in our blood, so it may lead to the edema. Localized edema, the causes of the localized edema could be filariasis. This is an infection due to the worms. You might have heard when you studied phylum Nematoda, the filarial worm, the invasion of the filarial worm that affects our lymphatic system, and the growth of these worms, they cause the obstruction of the lymphatic vessels. So in such a condition, the lymphatic system works abnormally. Venous obstruction is another cause of the localized edema, when the veins are just obstructed due to the thrombosis. Cellulitis is this skin infection. It is also responsible to produce localized edema. So this was all about the lymphatic system. Wish you good luck. All the best.